Good morning, church. I bet you're wondering, that's not Pastor Eric. And you would be correct. I am not Pastor Eric. You are here for the student takeover. So we're taking over just for today, though. He'll be back in a couple weeks. He is with the team in Albania, and they are going out there to just love on the people and do some VBS with them and just really share Jesus' love with them. So, who am I? If I'm not Pastor Eric, who am I, right? My name is Ben. I am the student director here at Connection Church, and we had the best time going to camp this week. Did you guys have a good time? Yeah. They don't believe you. Did you have a good time? Yeah. Okay. That's better. So, what is camp? Camp is a time where we, as the students, as the leaders going with them, we retreat from the world as we know it, and we really escape and go and spend time with the Lord and really hone in and dive in, spending time with Him and really growing our relationships with Him. So today, the Lord has really given me a message to share with you all. Who's ever had that experience where you're just like, man, the Lord has something He wants me to share, but I don't know what it is? That was me all week. And then out of nowhere, the Lord's just like, just hit me. He hit me. He's like, I got something for you. And it started downloading. Just in my brain, just started downloading all kinds of stuff. Not AOL, where it's like slow speed. Like, who knows AOL? Like, beep, beep, beep. It's not that. It was like high speed, 5G, all up in my brain. And He's like, here you go. Here's a lot of stuff for you. And so it was just incredible. But I want to start with a study. It's a recent study of 2023, earlier this year. And you know, it kind of troubled me. It says that 10% of boomers, 7% of Gen X, 6% millennials, and 4% Gen Z those are the only ones that are living with the biblical worldview in that generation. And that troubled me because 4% of Gen Z is what it says. It also says atheism is on the rise in Gen Z. Today's teens are less Christian and more confused about moral and spiritual truth than ever. And so I read that. I read it again, and I don't believe it. I respectfully disagree with what they have to say. And the reason is, what I saw at camp tells me otherwise. What I saw, because it wasn't just our kids. We had 50 total go with us. And to see those 50, along with the other 350, 400 people there, and you tell me that that's just the one little bit, you take them from each state, go over here, go over to Missouri, we'll go over to California, let's go to New York, Maine. You can't tell me that's only 4%. Because the passion and the fire that I saw tells me it's way more than that. It's way higher than 4%. And so today I want to tell you that there's still hope. There's still hope in this generation. I'm going to kick it off with a little story. I was in the military. Do we have any other veterans in here? Raise your hand. If you were, thank you guys. I was in the Marines for about 4.5 years. And when I was deployed, we were go to Jordan and do some training with the Jordanian army. And so here we are, we found out a couple months prior, and we're just like, man, I really don't want to do that. I'm so comfortable sleeping in my rack. We got the little 7-day store over here. Let's just chill out. They can train themselves. We're good. So we're just like, guys, there's still hope. There's still hope. We're not going to go. There's still hope. Months turn into weeks. We pass each other in the hallway. We're like, there's still hope. We're good. There's still hope. Weeks turn into days. We're just like, the words just leave. We're just like, still hope. We're good. There's still hope. Days turn into hours. Hours turn into we're sitting on the truck. We drive off and we see this big, huge piece of plywood. And what do? We're Marines. We're not the smartest bunch. We pick up the piece of plywood and we spray paint on the piece of plywood, still hope, and we take a picture with it. And so I'm here to tell you that there's still hope at all times. And there's still hope because of what we witnessed this week at camp. So I'm going to give you a little rundown of what camp looked like. a little brief schedule because it's hard to sum up 5 days, 4 days in however many minutes. So camp starts, we get there, and the bus pulls in. And you see all these yellow shirts. Did you guys see the people wearing the yellow shirts up there? They were doing the dancing. Did you guys see that? I don't know what they do. They must eat like their cornflakes with Red Bull sprinkled with a lot of pre-workout because they don't stop. I'm talking, they're running everywhere. And I could barely jump during the first song because my ankles started hurting. I'm like, oh, nope, I'm gonna sit. So I don't know what they do, but if you get there, you pull in and they're banging on the bus and they're like, woo, spraying it with water guns, getting on the bus. I'm like, get off the bus. I gotta make sure everyone's here, get off the bus. So we're all going over, we take a camp picture and then we start and then the week starts and it looks like we get up, we go to breakfast super late so there's no food for us because we get the crumbles and that was depressing. We got like the soggy bagels because they ran out of waffles. Everybody loves a good waffle. But we get the soggy bagels with no cream cheese, butter, or anything else. So, just eat it. So here we are. We're going to breakfast. Then after that, we go into our first worship time. And it's incredible. The speaker was fantastic. He's a speaker he's from Nashville, but now he preaches and speaks out in Georgia. Incredible speaker. And then we go into some small group times. After the small groups times, we go into our POIs. And lunchtime, it kind of rotates depending on your schedule. And the POIs, you saw a bunch of zip lines. You saw them walking on the high stuff. AAP, Aerial Adventure Park. That's it. I remembered. Then you got lake time, tubing. You got all this cool stuff. And then you get into more worship. We go back in for a second worship time. And then after that, we go into a checkpoint time. And checkpoint is what I want to focus on today. Checkpoint time for our church was phenomenal. It was a time where your group that you come with leaves and you go to a designated spot, which I think we stole someone's spot, but they don't know that, so we're good. You go into a designated spot and you review the message and you go through it. But what we did was Colton brought his guitar and we worshiped. So the first night, we're just worshiping. And you can just feel the presence of the Holy Spirit there. And it's incredible. So we were worshiping just like so genuinely that the next night, the church next to us came up and they said, hey, can we join in? So here we are. Connection Church is very interesting because we partner with a bunch of other churches. We partner with a bunch of stuff in the community. We go out at all times. Here we are in Richland and now going into Mount Pleasant. And even through our students, we are Connection Church because we have other churches wanting to join us and worship. So we're worshiping with them and it's just amazing. And in this time of Checkpoint, we're just seeing some of the most pure, genuine worship that I've seen in many, many years. I'm talking, we had kids just on their knees weeping, and just crying out in the presence of the Holy Spirit and just praying over one another. I'm talking, these kids got up and they just went and just started laying hands, praying on everybody. And it reminded me so much of the early church in the book of Acts, just how incredibly amazing it was. So I have a few pictures that I want to show you from this Checkpoint time. So Will, can you throw up the first one? And it's just, we see some of the kids just crying and praying over each other. Will, can you just kind of jump through them? At the very end, we have a nice little 12-second video clip of how great our singing is. But it's not about how great it is. It's about how awesome the worship is in that time. And so we're just seeing people just really in the presence of Jesus and the Holy Spirit. It's just so amazing. And that's the other church there with us. And so here we are just worshiping Jesus. So that's a quick 12-second. So it's just so encouraging to see what Jesus is doing in the student's life. And it's been a privilege to be able to do it, but it's also a responsibility that I don't take lightly. That's you, the parents, have given me. It's a responsibility that the church has given me, and it's a calling that Jesus has given me. But I'm here to tell you that there's still hope in this next generation. There's still hope because Jesus trusted us, and we, to him, are the next generation. Jesus trusted us, the next generation. So, who's got a Bible? Can I see it? If you got your hard copy, let me see it. This is something we do on Wednesdays, and we're going to do it here. Let me hear it. I love to hear the ruffling of it. I love to hear the ruffling of it. So, we're going to jump into 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5. I'm going to read this real quick. It says, I am reminded of your sincere faith, a faith that dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice. We're going to say Eunice. Eunice. I can't, these names sometimes, you know how it is. And now I am sure dwells in you as well. So Paul here is writing to Timothy. And if we jump up to verse 2, he calls him his beloved child. So Paul sees him as a spiritual son. But why I picked out verse 5 is because he recognizes and acknowledges the two generations before him that trained him up. His grandmother and his mother, Timothy's mother and grandmother, both trained him up to get him ready. And he says, I'm confident in the faith that you have. He's like, I know you have it. It dwells in you because I know them and I know what they've taught you. So we know that Paul is confident in the next generation because he's telling Timothy here. We also know that Jesus didn't worry about the next generation, did he? Jesus in Acts chapter 1 said, what? I must go so the Spirit can come, right? So Jesus left so the Spirit could come. But if Jesus was worried about the next generation, would he have left? No. Jesus would have stayed. He would have said, I just don't know if I can do this. I don't know. But he left because he knew that the Holy Spirit was going to work through that generation. So he leaves, and you flip over to Acts chapter 2, right after Jesus leaves, and what happens? Pentecost, right? Peter goes on to preach, and how many people come to know Jesus? 3,000 plus. Come on. That's incredible, knowing that Jesus trusted the next generation, so we can trust the next generation, because if he's willing to pass it over, we can be willing to pass it over when it's time, So just like Jesus, when it's time, we know that there's still hope. There's still hope because the message of Jesus is hope. If you read the whole New Testament, if you read the Gospels, I just get filled with hope. How about you guys? When you read through Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and you see that Jesus was teaching, what was Jesus teaching? Jesus was teaching hope. Jesus was teaching that there's hope because he is the way to the Father. He says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. I'm the only one to the Father that you can go to. So he says, my brain works weird sometimes. It has to catch up. So Jesus teaches hope. And he says, I'm the only way to the Father. But he says, I'm giving you a way to the Father. He says, and in that there is hope. Because we don't deserve a way to the Father, do we? But Jesus gives us one. So Jesus' message is hope. Just like today's message is, there's hope in this generation. Jesus' message was, I'm the way to the Father. There's hope because, I'm giving you a way. But then, at one time, it seemed like all hope was lost. When Jesus was on the cross and he died, it seemed like all hope was gone. But what happened 3 days later? 3 days later, Jesus rose. So all hope that was lost is now restored, because we know that in Jesus' resurrection, it solidified the hope that he brings. It solidified it because Jesus is the one person that can raise himself from the dead and raise anyone else from the dead at that. Let's be real. So we know that there's hope because of Jesus's teachings of hope. We know that there's hope because Jesus raised from the dead and solidified the hope. And we know that there's hope because Jesus is in control. Right? So when we're worried about different things, when we're worried about just anything in general, we know that Jesus is in control. So why is it that at times we're worried about this 4% that isn't real? There's no way that there's a 4% that have a biblical worldview. Because the students that I know that are sitting here in this front 2 rows, they have a passion and a desire to know Jesus. So when I see a 4% number that follow Jesus and that have a biblical worldview, I don't believe it. Because you can't tell me that that low of an amount of kids are following Jesus. I just won't believe you. Because you can go out there and you can pick, you can find, and I'm sure there's more kids just like these ones right here who have a desire and a passion and a genuine just desire to know Jesus. I don't believe that number, that 4%. Jesus is in control. And so we know that because Jesus is in control, we can hand over, we can let go when it comes time. These students this week have been such an encouragement. Seeing the desire and the passion and just the fire that they have for Jesus. And it comes from you guys, the parents, as well. You guys, the parents, are the ones pouring into them. You, the parents, are the ones who are teaching them this biblical worldview. You, the parents, are the ones who are teaching them who Jesus is. Our job here at the church is to partner with you and walk with you. And in that, help them understand the word just like you guys are. And so, if you see that 4% number, and you know that you're doing your job as a parent, because I see it, I know you are, you can't tell me that 4% is right. How many students do we have in this church that are jumping up and down, just in worship, falling on their knees in prayer, weeping, just weeping in the presence of the Holy Spirit? We've got, on average, we average between 50 and 60 kids a Wednesday night. And I know that those kids are really furthering their relationship with Jesus and doing whatever it takes. And it's encouraging. It should be encouraging to all of us, seeing that the younger generation is wanting to do that. And it tells us that there's still hope in that generation. When we're worried about passing the torch, just know this: Jesus is in control. When we're worried about can they handle it, Jesus is in control. When we're worried about the prodigals coming home, Jesus is in control. What I see sitting here in this front row is not Gen Z, it's not millennials, it's not any of that. What I see is the future leaders of the church. I see the ones who are going to take it, run with it, bring the gospel from northeast, southwest. I'll just go like that, northeast, southwest. They're going to take it and they're going to run with it because that's what Jesus wants them to do. And these students are ones that listen to what Jesus has for them. So, in everything we do, we can know that there's still hope because Jesus is in control. Guys, when everyone says something, if we hear so much negative stuff about Gen Z, but just know, Jesus is in control. You guys don't have to listen to that. I mean, just know Jesus is in control. If you trust in him, if you turn to him in anything, he'll take care of you. Jesus is in control. So, we know that there's still hope. And you know, I'm used to Wednesday nights, and so we have shorter messages. I'm sorry. I know you guys are looking forward to hearing me talk a lot more. But Wednesdays we do shorter messages, that's kind of what I'm used to. But if you take two things away from me today, I want you to take that there's still hope. There's still hope in the next generation, and that we can trust it because Jesus is in control. So I want to send you off with a verse. It is Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. In everything we do for Jesus. We trust in him, and we know that he will take care of us because he's in control.